Hey, good late afternoon, everybody. Yeah, almost evening, if you will. Almost evening. It is basically right now 5:43 p.m. Pacific time, if you will. And I got to go out in just a little bit and take the garbage out just a bit after I record this. But before we get into the topic at hand, which is an update to something I talked about, believe it or not, 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, 3.5. Well, 3 years ago, 3 years and a month ago. We'll put it that way. 3 years and a month ago. So 3 years, 1 month ago. But basically, and what is 3 years anyway? Let's see. 12 is a year. 24 is 2 years. So 36. So basically, about 36 and a half months ago, I talked about this. But anyway, before we get started, I'd like to ask you once again, as usual, to do me a small favor, and that's like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Also, ladies and gentlemen, please click on the links in the description as well as on my YouTube homepage to find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube. You can find me at all your favorite audio and video podcast platforms like iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Radio Public, and to an extent SiriusXM, and potentially because of a partnership with Spotify, maybe in the near future Netflix. Yes, because Netflix is planning to do that with a lot of podcasts. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I am on alternate video outlets. So if you want to find me outside of YouTube on video outlets, you can find me at Odyssey, Dailymotion, VENMO, and Rumble. I also have a Patreon that's going to be up and running soon, so check that out again. I have to resume where I left off late last year. I also have a Cash App and a Venmo if you want to help me out directly right away. That's one way of doing it. It would be greatly appreciated at this time with bills and everything. So if you can do that, it'd be very helpful. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I have a couple of online stores. I have a Fourth Wall store and a Teespring store. The Fourth Wall store link is in the description, in the middle part of the description box near the top, and the Teespring store link is near the bottom. And both links are on the home page when you click on the about button, the about link, if you will. Basically, when you look on the home page of a YouTube user, one of the things says about. Basically, click on that. You'll see all the information there as well. Also, I will have affiliated stores linked as well. So if you want to click on those affiliated store links and check out some items that might interest you, please go ahead and do so. It helps out you with whatever you're interested in, and it helps me out via commission. Also, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me on other creative outlets like DeviantArt at BVW1979, at For Affinity at BW1979, and InkBunny.net at BWRoses. Also, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at social media outlets like Twitter, aka X.com, at BWRoses, TikTok at BWRoses, and Blue Sky at BWRoses. And also, guys, during this live video premiere, the live chat will be open, so if you want to chime on in your thoughts and everything on what I'm going to say here in this updated discussion of a topic I did 36 months ago, basically 3 years and a month ago, if you will. You can go ahead and do so. And yes, super chats are open, guys. So you want to get those super chats on in doing this as well, along with your topics, or along with your not topics, but your opinions and everything on what I'm going to say on the topic, I should say. Then go ahead and do so. Super chats are open. They will be greatly appreciative. Also, guys, if you still want to chime in and everything during the live video premiere and afterwards, but you don't want to do a live chat, and you might say, well, we'll help you out in the future and everything when we can as well, then the comment section will be open just in case you want to do that. And also, ladies and gentlemen, if you still want to donate, but you're not here in time for the live video premiere, super thanks will be open. That is the little heart with the dollar sign in the middle. So with that all out of the way, all those preliminary and plugs out of the way, let's get on to the topic at hand. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, sorry about that. I was trying to find the pause button. I don't know why I keep forgetting it's the bottom. Oh, it's at the bottom, if you will. But, okay. So let's get on to the topic. Now, back on December 12th, 2022, going into 2023 at that time frame, I was asking a very interesting question because at that time, Showtime, mostly the after hours genre, section, if you will, Showtime was basically becoming the only outlet from a linear pay cable perspective. that apparently was still offering their certain type of entertainment, if you know what I mean. For primarily the very NSFW like entertainment for adults, basically the after hours, if you will. And I asked a question, and again, it's the title of this video, but the year is going to be changed up. And I asked a question back then, and I'm going to ask now. See, back then I asked, when I recorded this on December 12th, originally recorded it on December 12th, 2022, I asked if late night adult films or late night adult plus films basically I asked late night adult plus films, is 2023 the year they might leave late night cable for good? Basically that's the topic of the video I asked and everything. And hold on, let me make sure I get that right. Hold on. Yeah, basically the title, which again is going to be revised here, was Late Night Adult Plus Films, is 2023 the year that they leave late night / on demand cable for good? I was just asking that question because again, like I said, essentially at that time, outside of Showtime and their after hours section, or their after hours broadcasting, if you will, Epix, which is EPIX, Epix, surprisingly, believe it or not, which was a spin-off of Stars, that's S-T-A-R-Z, S-T-A-R-Z, Stars, it's a spin-off of Stars. Epix actually had their own little section on demand and broadcasting-wise, linear cable-wise, over the air, or on air, late at night, their own little section of adult entertainment. And all of a sudden, it disappeared. One day, just out of curiosity, I looked, and other people confirmed it because they looked, just out of curiosity, thinking, I wonder what kind of stuff they have now. And lo and behold, it was gone. I was like, what happened here, right? What occurred? Because it was the same thing that happened with Cinemax, not that long before. And it made me raise that question, whether or not 2023, which is now 3 years ago this month, if 2023 was going to be the year that late night adult plus films were going to be leaving cable and leaving late night and / on demand cable for good. It made me wonder that. Well, so far, Showtime, which is owned by Paramount, Paramount Skydance, Showtime so far is still surviving. It is. Because basically, believe it or not, when you go and check Showtime, you're looking at all the categories of entertainment they have there, from comedies to new releases and everything, to dramas, to documentaries. Well, right under one of the documentary sections, one of the, right below, I'm trying to find the right word to say, right below one of the documentary sections and everything is another section called After Hours. And believe it or not, they do have stuff still there. But here's the interesting thing. Some of that stuff's been there for the past few years. It's not changed. Yeah, they've added a few things here and there, but none of it's really changed. It's pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same movies from before. Like I said, they bring in a few here and there to switch things up, and everything, but it's mostly the same stuff as before. And even the shows that they promote, for that genre are still pretty much the same. Nothing has changed. And when I see that, and again with a few additions, subtractions and additions here and there, when I see that, and I see only, and I counted this myself, and others confirmed, I said, can you, check for me, and they counted as well. There's only like 12 movies. 12 movies, that's it. And you have like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 series. So I look at that and I'm thinking, okay, what's the issue? What's the issue if this is still going to, be, I guess you could say a marketplace, a ratings winner, if you will, or if not a viewership winner via streaming, for Showtime and Paramount and all them. What's the deal? Why can't they maybe, say to themselves, hey, this is actually successful for us, let's get more. What's going on? Or let's add more. Well, I think it's mainly because of the fact, like I believe I mentioned in the original video, and everybody else has talked about this, even John Campea and a few others. But basically, we are in a time frame now where you can basically go online, and this is true. You can go online, and you can find these You can find these movies. Stream. You can find these movies and pay for them if you want to, or you can go online and find certain sites if they're safe enough. Double check if they're safe. Certain sites, if you will, and watch them there, and you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about going and watching them on Showtime, either through the Paramount streaming platform, or even wait till it comes on late at night. You don't have to do that because it's all right there. And to me, that pretty much, in my opinion, to me that pretty much is telling me, right now, and I think anybody else would agree, that the late night adult plus films, on linear cable and the on-demand, outlets, as well as streaming, those adult films are pretty much, going away. Very soon, and I've always had this feeling, Showtime, like I said, is the last vestige, the last, island, if you will, last island of survival for these movies, when it comes to linear cable and the on-demand spin-offs, as well as the streaming spin-off, if you will. It's like they're the last vestige, if you know what I mean. They're the last, lone surviving island to, give them a home. And I feel I feel that island that they've been given a home at is slowly sinking. Yeah, the island, that little surviving island, which is ironic since Paramount owns CBS, and CBS is about to air the 50th Survivor. But still, that little surviving island is slowly sinking. It's slowly kind of capsizing, one way and another because it's trying to stay afloat. And sooner or later, it's going to capsize over and go to the bottom. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. I mean, I'll give Showtime a lot of credit. They're holding off as much as they can, or holding on as much as they can with this after hours, section of, of movies and everything on the Paramount Plus, on the Showtime section there, as well as even late night. I mean, I'll give them credit. I think a lot of us should give them credit there for being the last vestige, like I said, of survival for these, I guess you could say this tradition, this old school tradition. But sooner or later, it's like I said, it's going to capsize. It's going to go under. But why would it go under? Why would this happen? Well, it's real simple. The same with Epix. Epix had a peripheral, and I mean this. Last time I saw it, they had a peripheral of late night stuff. And when you look it up online to see what it's about, they had some of the most. I mean, here's the thing. You think some of the stuff that Showtime has on the after hours section is crazy? Epix basically edged them out by just a little bit, and so did Cinemax with their SkinMax, edged them out just by a little bit. But yet they, their islands, their ships they were on sank to the bottom. And now you don't see that stuff anymore. The only time you see it is when you watch a movie that was in theaters that has an R rating and everything, or a series that has a TV 14 to almost MA rating. That's the only time you see it. But what's different about those shows and those movies that have that stuff is they're more plot-based, more story-based than just, let's get out the next gratuitous sex scene out there for the public to see. They're more story-based, more character-driven than just, hey, let's give them a show that they're never going to forget. And basically that's the only kind of way you see that stuff on their platforms. That's the only way. But when it comes to basically, like, let's say, the after-hour stuff, like I said, the after-hour stuff, when the kids go to bed kind of stuff, and everything, the stuff that gets you in the mood to get it on, that kind of stuff, you don't see it on the platforms anymore, but you see it with Showtime. So Showtime, like I said, they are barely, surviving in my opinion, because again, right now all they have is like, movie wise, is 12 films, 12 films, and then like 3 or 4 series, that's based on what they bring to the table, and that's it. Now you might say, well, wait a minute. You might say, well, wait a minute, Brian. Don't they have the L Word? That's an MA series. Yeah, but here's the thing about the L Word. The L Word was basically, as I mentioned earlier, more character developing, story driven. Yes, you got moments in there. Yes, I'm not denying that. But they were more story driven and character developing than anything. And the only time you got those moments is when it was built up to be appropriate enough in the story to take place. That's the way that's the way I understand it. Same with Sex in the City. Okay? Sex in the City had their moments. Straight, LGBTQ, you name it. They had their moments, but just like with the L Word, they built up to it. They used the stories and the character development to build up to it. It wasn't just randomly out of nowhere, here we go. It's just like guy and girl in the room and then, okay, boom, have them go at it. Or girl and girl in the room, boom, have them go at it. It wasn't just like that. It was, there was a reason behind the story and the character developing, for it to happen. And it made sense. It really did. And when it happened, yeah, you got your moments. You got certain moments, scenes, if you will, in there between the two, or between the two individuals. But it wasn't as, flat out there and everything like you would see with the adult stuff, with the after hours stuff. And to me, that's why, again, I go back to what I said, that if you're going to see this kind of stuff, on the other platforms, it'll be in those kind of things, like those kind of shows, those kind of movies. I mean, look at the new Spartacus season on Stars, and that's Starz, Stars. Take a look at that. Obviously, already off the bat, they're delivering what they promoted for the new season. They're going to be filthier, edgier, dirtier, you name it. You name it. Anything you can think of that they could potentially cross the line of, or line over almost of, they're going to do it. They promoted they're going to do it. They're doing it. But here's the thing. Even though you'll get those moments, the moments are not meant to be the way you see in After Hours. These moments are built up. They're built up to, kind of have a sensible place in the story. And, I know I'm saying a lot. I do apologize. But basically, they're built up to make enough sense to take place and be part of the story. That's what I'm trying to say. And, when you compare it, like I said, to what you see with the After Hours stuff on Showtime, it's like, again, the stuff you see there is just like, okay, where's the build? All of a sudden, boom, here you go. All of a sudden, boom, here you go. And it's like, where's the build? There's none. There's none. And to me, I feel like because of that, that could lead to the downfall of of what remains of Showtime's, After Hours category in the next year or two. I really do. Unless they pick up the slack in 2026 and they add in new stuff, because they do have a partnership, believe it or not. They still have a licensing partnership with the adult film companies known as Adam and Eve and CED, from what I understand. They still have a partnership. So unless they pick up the slack, I don't think Adam and those two companies, those two adult studio companies, Adam and Eve and CED, are going to want to have anything to do with it anymore. And there could be a potential, I'm not sure if this is true, that the partnership, the licensing, the deal, the agreement might be up real soon. That's why, again, out of curiosity, if you're wondering, okay, what did they add this time, you're seeing less and less and less. Again, like I said, if you count it right now, if you go to the Showtime hub on Paramount Plus, and you scroll down and you go to where the two documentary categories are, and then after the last documentary category, you see the After Hours one, and if you want to just count right there how many movies are listed, you'll see that it's just 12. It's just 12 of them. And that's it. Along with a few series, and that's it. And again, I'm not saying that's that spells the end. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say that if they don't want people to think that, they need to pick it up. They need to pick up the slack, in my opinion. Now, there are some stuff, from what I understand, people have told me. Curiosity, I go online, onto Twitter and Blue Sky and all that, where you can find me, by the way, at BW Roses. I go there, and I ask, just out of curiosity, basically, just out of curiosity, what are the more, like, I think before I did this, hold on, but before I did this, out of curiosity, I would ask, certain questions online, like at Twitter and Blue Sky. And, I would ask questions like, okay, what adult films, after-hour films on Showtime have a near cohesive story, but still want to focus on the raunchiness? And they would point out to me that and I would even ask, and out of curiosity, I could ask even ChatGPT or Gemini on Google. And they would probably tell me, just similar to what some of these people have told me, on these social media sites, they would say that basically a lot of the more recent ones over the past few years, like 2025, 2024, 2023, if you will, that a lot of those, like in the past 6 years maybe, 5 years, have had more character-driven stories, more story-focused plots and everything, to run alongside 50-50 almost with the raunchiness. Now, basically they're saying that, yeah, you're going to get it big time. You're going to get it right in your face almost. But basically they're trying to equal it out so it's not just all about that. And also the fact that now the big difference is it's not like you're watching a movie to where the characters, mostly the women, when they do that thing with each other, break the fourth wall and look at the camera and smile and try to invite you and everything, and then after that they go back to the story. It's like, they're trying to improve, because I'm willing to guess, just talking about this and bringing this up and all that, I'm willing to guess that the reason they're trying to be more story-driven, more character-driven, kind of at a 50-50 pace, is because they know that if they don't change, they could end up being, gone from the after hours of Showtime, and Showtime could lose their after hours. Because a lot is changing. I mean, they got new owners in the Ellisons. So you can't tell me that the Ellisons are not going to look at Showtime, over the next year or so, reevaluate it and be like, yeah, we don't want the after hours anymore, because, people can pretty much find it online anyway. You can't tell me they may not consider getting rid of it, because they can. And you got to remember this too. When I originally did that first video back in 2022, that's before the Ellisons, and Skydance bought out Paramount. And now that they own Paramount, things could potentially change. And I think that's why you're seeing a limitation, on all these, adult after-hour films in the after-hours category and section of the Showtime Hub on Paramount Plus, as well as listed on listed as being broadcasted on the linear, cable outlet known as Showtime. You're starting to see less of it, because the Ellisons, I guarantee you, their control, their effect they're having is going to manifest, and it's going to get even bigger. It's going to emphasize, and not emphasize, but it's going to encompass a lot of the stuff that's under the control now. And if they look at Showtime, they reevaluate it and say, yeah, we don't want the after-hours section anymore, it's gone. And the one reason they would say is because everybody can pretty much get this stuff, anywhere online, even buy it on demand if they have to. And if that's not enough, believe it or not, I have heard that people have, I have heard, I'm trying to find the right word to say here, guys. But hold on, before I get to, I don't want to have a brain fart. Hold on. Sorry, guys, I almost got tongue-tied. I had to drink a Coca-Cola there. But anyway, what I was saying is that I've heard from people that have said that they would go and look online to find some of these, films that you could find, that currently have been, are currently, I should say, and have been, part of the after hours section on Showtime. And even beforehand, when Epix was doing it and so on, they said they'd go online, try to find them, and what they would find is information about them in a way that really is surprising. Because you see, some of these films, believe it or not, are if you're curious to look at them, if you're curious enough to look at them, a lot of these films, maybe even the 12 I've mentioned, well, I didn't name them, but the 12 that are there currently, as I'm recording this, a lot of those films are not entirely the whole thing if you're curious. Yeah. Because apparently there was a film, excuse me, excuse me there. Didn't mean for that to happen, a little burp there. But what I'm trying to say is someone out of curiosity was looking for a movie that was on Showtime one time as part of the after hours. As part of the after hours thing, they were looking for it because basically someone said that there was a scene in there. Like, the story was good. It was kind of like a very adult rom-com like story. But they were looking for the film. And it was called The Missus and the Mistress. That's what it was called. Not going to say any more than that. And they said, from what I understood, that when they looked for it, they were directed, one of the areas they were directed to was a place called the playground, or the digital playground. That's all I'm going to say. And they were directed to this place because the person that directed them said that this had that one scene, but had it in a way that was different. It was different than what they saw, or what they saw or were told about with the original Showtime airing. And what they found out was, yes, it was the same scene, but it was filmed differently. From what they said, it was filmed so differently that you knew it was from the same story, if you will, the same adult film, but it was done in a way that was more gratuitous, more raunchy, more like, whoa, where did this come from? And they even said that there were comments in the comment section asking, wait a minute, because people recognized it from what they read in the comics, that people recognized where it was from, and they're like, wait a minute, is this from the same thing, or the same film? Is this from the Missus and the Mistress? Is this the unedited version? What's going on? So they looked around. They asked me to kind of look up some information too, and I did. And basically, what we found out was essentially what you got on the Showtime release, on the after hours release for Showtime, was a dialed down version, a dialed down Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke version. Let's say a golden leaf or a pure leaf, zero sugar tea version, diluted version of what was originally filmed. That's what you ended up getting. You ended up getting basically a very well, I wouldn't say very diluted, but basically, if you're into this kind of stuff, a very less risque NSFW presentation. Put it that way. You were given less buck for your value. We'll put it that way. Less buck for your value. And, looking it up online, basically the thing is, sometimes these stories are not the original stories. Or basically they're not the original titles of the movie. They're changed up. Yeah, they're changed up to be more presentable. Yeah. And there was another one somebody told me about. It was about these two girls that ended up, these two former dance models of a after hours club, if you will, that ended up in prison because they had committed a crime. And of course, they ended up, getting together and doing the thing. And the Showtime airing had it under a different name. It was something about prison or something like that. It had the name, but the real name was, get this, Lola and Maxine. Get blankety blank. I'll put it that way. Get blankety blank. I'll put it that way. Uh, but that was the original title. They changed it for Showtime. And I think that's what's also hurting Showtime too. Is you're not just giving people what you're licensing. You're not giving people what you're originally licensing from the likes of a CED, from the likes of an Adam and Eve. You're not giving it to them. Instead you're giving them basically a diluted version. And to me, that's what's hurt. And to me, I think that's what's hurting, Showtime. And I think that's what hurt Epix. That's what hurt Cinemax with SkinMax and all that. That's what hurt them because they were giving people a diluted Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, zero sugar, sweet tea version of what they were licensing instead of giving them the whole thing. I mean, if they're supposed to be late at night, for adults only, kids in bed kind of entertainment, then why not go all the way? Why not go all the way and just show the uncensored original version? I'll tell you why. FCC, FTC. Those are the ones that they can't get by. It's the same basically like I mentioned recently about the whole Station 19 thing. From what I think I said in there, basically they could get away with what they could. Because ABC through the FCC and the FTC would not let them go any further. But I truly believe certain moments in Station 19 between Maya and Karina, especially the shower scene, I say with all due respect, no offense, I think that might have been a touch too far. And whether, ABC and Disney and the production company behind them want to admit it, I think stuff like that, moments like that, is what led to the show's cancellation outside everything else that they talked about, leading to its cancellation. And that's why basically with these kind of things you get these Diet Coke, Diet Pepsi, zero sugar, sweet tea diluted versions, of these adult films. Because, when you look them up online and then you find out, oh, wait a minute, this is the same film, or at least it's the same, actresses or actors and actresses, but whoa, this is a lot more, a lot more NFSW, very a lot more NFSW than it, as originally was on the cable version. When you see that, you realize that you're not, if you're interested in it, if it's your cup of tea, you realize you're not getting the whole filet mignon, if you know what I mean. It's like that old saying people use, like, you go to a fancy restaurant, and let's say you order the filet mignon, and you want it well done, if you will, and you get all the and you want all the trimmings with it and all that, all the sides and everything. You want that whole course meal, right? That whole 7-8 course meal, right? And instead, what do you get? You get the filet mignon, and you get the sides and everything, but it's not the 7 to 8 course meal you were hoping for. Instead, it's half of that. Instead, it's a 3.5 to 4 course meal. 3.5 to 4 course meal. And it's like you look at that and you're like, that's not what I ordered. And I'm not paying, this amount for something that I did not order. I wanted the whole damn thing. And that's basically, if it's your cup of tea, what goes on here. You're not getting the whole thing. You're just getting part of it. And I think that, again, is what's leading to the downfall of stuff, of things like the after hours section for Showtime. And what led to the downfall of Epix losing them, and even Cinemax through SkinMax losing them. It's because of the fact that people nowadays can go online, find certain sites that are safeable, if they're interested, and go on those sites and see for themselves, like, oh my gosh, this is this is the same scene, but more NFSW times 20 than it was originally seen on, linear cable late night. So to me, when I piece this all together, ladies and gentlemen, I look at the fact when I piece this all together that I firmly believe, just like I did back on December 12th, 2022, when I did that original video, on this topic, I firmly believe then, like I do now. I firmly believe then, like I do now, and even more so than before, that we are in the final years of after-hour stuff, after-hour late-night entertainment, adult NFSW entertainment, when it comes to cable outlets like Showtime and the on-demand offerings, through Paramount Plus. We are in the final years, if not the final year, because, like I said, you got new owners behind Paramount, which is Skydance, owned by the Ellisons, and basically they are going to do enough for. I mean, it's not even been a year since they bought Paramount. Okay, it's not been a year, and they're going to do whatever it takes to, look through their category of what they own. They're going to look specifically at Showtime, and they're going to look at what they need, what they don't need. They're going to toss out they're going to keep what they want. They're going to toss out what they don't want. And one of the things they're going to toss out, I guarantee, is going to be after hours. And what's going to happen, for that, or what's going to happen because of that, what's going to happen is basically they're going to have less, or they're going to have an open section for a new category or whatever they want to add there. Try to maybe make it family friendly. I don't know. But what's going to happen initially? What's going to happen to the after hours stuff? When it comes to that Showtime, they're going to cease. They're going to cease to be, and the only way you're going to find this stuff is either through the on-demand, pay-per-view like sections on your cable outlet, your cable provider, or just look online. That's how you're going to find it. That's how you're going to find it, because it's going to be gone. Again, they're gonna look over everything they have, including Showtime, see what they want, see what they don't want, keep what they want, and get rid of what they don't want. And the after hours category is going to be that one of them. I got a feeling they're going to get rid of. They are, because, like I said earlier, the reason they're going to do it is the same reason I'm mentioning here. People can because this is going to be the belief they have. People can find this online, and so why do we need to keep it? Why do we need to keep it if people can find it online and mostly find the more uncut original versions? That's going to be the reason they cut the after hours. So, yeah, like I said, just moments ago, I believed then, like I'm believing more so now than ever, we are in the final years, if not the final year. And I would not be surprised that before this year's out, the after hours section on Showtime's hub at Paramount Plus, and all the after hours on demand section on your linear cable outlet, I will not be surprised that before this year's out, they're gone. I would not be surprised. Don't believe me? Don't believe me? Keep it if you're interested, if it's your cup of tea, keep an eye out. Keep an eye out. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. There's no doubt, in my opinion, it's going to happen. And when it does, it just shows you that what they're doing is they're moving on to be more contemporary, and less, less, I guess you could say, restrictive in certain areas. They're going to be more contemporary with what they bring to the table. And like I said, they can replace the after hours category on both on-demand and streaming with a family-friendly category or a Skydance category, or one of the two. But yeah, more so than ever, now that they're under new ownership, I've got a feeling they're done. I've got a feeling this is it. So that's all I can really say, guys. I do apologize if I went all over the place here, but I just wanted to do this updated take on the video I did back in 2022 on December 12th, 2022. Just giving you my take on it and everything, and let me know what your thoughts are. How do you feel about the potentiality that this year, if not, these next few years, could be it? And do you agree? Do you agree with some of my assumptions as to why it's going to happen? And do you believe that the Ellisons, you know, will, basically purge, a lot of what they don't like on Showtime, out of Showtime, which could include more than likely the after hours section on both on demand and streaming? Let me know. Love to hear your thoughts and everything on it. And until next time, guys, do me a solid favor, and that's like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Also, click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube and to support me outside of YouTube as well. And you can go to the homepage. You can go to my YouTube homepage is what I'm trying to say. Click on the About button or click on the About section, and you can find a lot of the information of where to find me outside of YouTube there. But guys, give me your thoughts. How do you feel? Do you agree? Not agree? Do you truly believe my theory that this is it? Let me know. And also let me know if you've ever experienced anything like that to where you're like, well, wait a minute. This is the same thing, but it's uncut, and yet the other one was cut or edited down. It's like, what's going on? Let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are, guys. And until then, I'm out.